Ezsa Allen. You guys don't know what that does to me as a creator to see that introduction come in. It looks good, but it's a lot of hard work to get to that status. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I am doing a segment that varies from the Black Super Friends called the G Series, where I talk to the great, the gifted, the godly, uh, the people that I know that are just phenomenal people and leave you with something that you can take away from. You know, there are a lot of people locally, just phenomenal people. They're superheroes and they're doing good stuff. And I want you to have a conversation with people like this. Issa Allen, who I call my superhero, somebody that I have conversations with candidly. She's the host of Candid Talks with E, a show that
Yes.
I'll be on one day. Uh,
Yes.
Owner of Mind Over You Incorporated,
Yes.
host of Open Room,
Yes.
and you are premiering your company, which is probably the biggest thing that I love lately, Social Age Counseling LLC, that provides
Yes.
therapy for kids, adults, families, and minority families.
It's designed primarily for minority families because in what I've been doing so far, I realized that we don't have companies that are designed for minority families, individuals, because I'm huge on culture. And
Mhm.
I'm huge on your family upbringing, how you were raised, all the factors that make you you. But I think sometimes as therapists, we view the person for their issue, so to speak, and try to approach it um, with a therapeutic way of just tackling the issue, not understanding how that person was raised, where they come from, their core value, and all that factors into it. So my Mind Over You company is a nonprofit that I did, which was promoting mental health in the minority communities by providing education, interventions, prevention, free of charge. The Social Age Counseling Company is now an agency that is for therapy and counseling specifically for the minority and underserved communities. So I'm very, very excited about that.
Why do you think it is that was such a stigma for so long? You know what I mean? I know back in the days, the joke was to say someone's crazy, and now everyone's starting to take it more serious. Like we're like, let's explore it a little more. People are giving a little more respect to know that some people it's unfair. They do have things that they're dealing with.
So I would say that it's just pure education. If we don't know something, we don't know, right? And growing up, we were taught a certain ways from our parents, and they were taught from their parents. And again, being in a cultural driven society, usually you don't have, I would say, like you, depending on your social economic status, you don't have time to educate yourself properly on things um, that's needed, so to speak. So you're more so worried on the providing and making sure there's a roof over your head and working enough hours to making sure there's food on the table. And with poverty brings on mental health issues, and we don't even understand that portion. So and I'm just speaking from our parents and our parents' parents, and that's why that stigma is still strong with us because it wasn't taught to us growing up. So now that it's being educated more and we're speaking about it more, that's now I feel like, and I'm happy about it, that we are now seeing it for what it is now.
You know what I respect about you is the fact that you could be doing anything else, but this is what you do. This is your passion, and it's great to be a friend of yours because me and you, I don't talk to people, but I've had a good friendship with you where I can have a conversation where I can unpack and maybe have an intimate conversation with you that I can't have with anybody else, and you'll understand it. Or you give me a perspective from another, you'll make me look at it from a way that's constructive and make me be able to try to work on that. And is that something that I don't even know if it's a question. That's just something that you're able to do. I don't know if every therapist has that ability like you. So that may be a gift.
Thank you, Horace. I really appreciate that. And I really do appreciate our conversations too. And vice versa. Like when I was first starting this in the nonprofit sector, you're the first, one of the first people that I came to, and I was like, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking of. This is what I want to do." And we run in that round table in your office, and you hashed it out, and you gave me like great information as to where to start. So I really appreciate that. And like I said, vice versa. Good. I understand. I see when there's good potential in people, and you're one of those people that's very genuine and real. And I appreciate that as well.
All right, thank you. Last night, I think it was last night, I did a show on. I do a podcast with a few um, podcast hosts. You know, four of us, the top podcasters, have a show called Black Ass Conversations.
Yes.
And I had I had a moment. I had a
Okay.
moment on air where I got teary eyed. I broke down, and I didn't get the tears, but I had a moment where I was triggered about something that I didn't know was a trigger. And we were talking about the importance of fathers,
Okay.
and I was speaking about it was a point where on the Will Smith, probably the most memorable episode was where Will had the episode with his dad, and that
And you
triggered
didn't show
something.
up.
It did, and I was sharing with the cast how, you know, even when I said I didn't want my dad and I hated him, I was still doing things for his validation and affirmation. You know, I was playing
Mm-hmm.
sports, I was doing something to try to get his attention,
Mm-hmm.
and I was sharing how it affected me, but it also is the reason I go overboard as a parent. Um, with my kids, you know, making sure like that pain was so hurtful that I didn't want my kids to experience that, and that's maybe why I have a spirit of like wanting to see any kid like
Succeed.
succeed.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't know it was a trigger that was still there. So I'm open for people to see it. Like I don't hold anything back nowadays because I want men to get to a place where we were trained to be one way, but I'm not saying be a box of water, but I'm saying there's some things that we need to tackle. That way we don't pass it on to our kids. So, you know, me being at this age and having a trigger, I didn't really panic this time. But how do I go that long without knowing I had a trigger that was still affecting me?
Sometimes it depends. And it's a good thing that you even identified that that was a trigger at that moment, too. You know what I'm saying? So you being vulnerable enough and open to express that is going to help someone else, too. And more importantly, help yourself. Because no matter how old we are, we still can grow and we can learn. Right? Can I ask you a question? How did you know that that was a trigger in the moment of that conversation that you were having?
Maybe because it took me back.
Okay.
I couldn't control myself. Like I couldn't control what I was feeling, but
Okay.
it took me back to a place that made me think about like all of it all over again. And that was
So
something that I tried to do.
one thing I'm huge on is your subconscious,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why I believe wholeheartedly that you should be mindful of the things that you say, the things that you think, the negative thoughts that you allow to come in, and like being very protective of your mind and that energy, so to speak. And that goes so much too as far as parents. And it goes back to what I was just saying a few minutes ago. When you have parents that don't know, they're parenting you probably 9 times out of 10 how they were parented. You understand?
Yeah.
So when you're saying that you got that trigger from last night and you built up that emotions, is because you've never dealt with it. You've never processed the issue, right? You never learned the skills to kind of move on, and then you never healed from it properly. Right. So it's still there navigating into your subconscious. And again, it's good that you brought that out to even identify that that's a problem. So now that you can work on that, and again, like it's going to bring different, how to say, by you working on it and healing from it, you're going to notice something different in yourself too. You know what I'm saying? To where you're going to be more stronger mentally, so to speak. And then you're going to be also there stronger for your children too. You know, so that's a good thing though.
Well, I know I can't listen. I know I couldn't be the only one because I grew up with friends. All of us, my closest friend, we all had issues. The great part about it was we all raised each other. We all had a
Look,
unique story related to our dads.
look, when it comes to that, it's like, and I don't know if I'm one too, that I'm not too, um, for those who know me closely know my story, but I'm one too that I was raised by a single mom, right? I didn't have my dad around at all. I may have seen him at least a good 3 or 4 times in my life. Right. And as you, I used to say, I think I asked him for $5 once. I think I was like 12 or 13. 2021, I am still waiting on that $5. You understand what I'm saying? So I picked up this mentality back then that I don't need him, right? I don't need your little $5. But that created something in me that I created through anger and through disappointment, right? So our personalities moving forward is going to always kind of stem from that negative aspect. So what I'm saying to you is that it's a great thing that you at least can identify that now, because moving forward, you can say that, you know what, that was an issue and I need to deal with it. And I'm going to, move forward in a more healthier way. Because for me as well, like I did have some kind of issues growing up as far as that dad father issue that we all talk about, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm so like wholeheartedly gunning for therapy, because it works. It truly works. You know what I'm saying? As growing up, we parents don't have there's no Bible, there's no law on how to raise children. You know what I'm saying? So it's like all we can do as parents now is right the wrongs of our parents before, make sure that we can be in 100% space for them. So.
Yeah. I know what my answer would be, but you're the expert. Someone from YouTube asked, so what are the things that not having a father around creates mentally in a human being?
It depends again on that. And a lot of things depends on a person's personality, right? So growing up, it takes two people to create a child, right? And I do believe it should take two people to raise a child. You do not have to be in the same household, right? But you do need to be there as a father figure and a mother figure. I believe in roles too. So a mother is supposed to be there to show a certain type of role and give that kind of nurturing to a child, where a father as well is supposed to give that his role again on what a man is supposed to be to that child. When a child is lacking that, he's going to find that void in whatever it is that he sees fit. Now, if he or she has a adult in their life that is filling in that void as that mother figure or that father figure, they can fill that void with whatever they're lacking. But if they don't get that, then they're going to fill it with something that may be negative. You know what I'm saying? And then we're going to go through life as adults lacking something. And then we go into relationships lacking something. And then we expect our relationships or our partner to fill that void when that's not our partner's role. That was mom and dad's role.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think it's different with men and women. I know with men, but with men, we're taught to function. Like you be tough, carry on. Like it's almost like get over it. So we learn to deal and we learn to function through a lot of stuff that's still affecting us.
Correct.
Just work, just go through it. But I have dated people that have father issues or didn't know their dad, and that it did cause problems in the relationship because for different reasons. But I know they didn't really. I think one, to me personally, had issues with men. Period. You know what I mean? And so I can see how for men and women it's different, but it is valid.
It's different for men and women, but we all still hold the same core value too, because even though we like to say, oh, men, it's the provider and protector, but growing up in a household where you don't have a man, mom has to take, especially single mothers, they have to take on both roles. You understand? So they not only have to be that nurturer and that person who's going to be the therapist or the counselor or the cleaner, cook and everything. Now they have to be the provider and the protector on top of all that, whatever else they got going on. You know what I'm saying? So that's where a lot of women take on that mindset that I'm going to make way to, just like what you just said with men. We have to make way as the provider and the protector. But now it's like women have to do the same thing as well. So it's just a culture in which we have to get our minds right first to get out of this negative thing that we were taught. There's a whole life out there for us. There's a whole way of gaining money. There's a whole way of doing things. But your mind has to be right first before you move forward and celebrating the things of life, you know?
So I'm gonna ask you something. I know you have to do the work. You know what I mean? When you do decide to recognize the things that are holding you back and you want to, work on those things, how important is a tribe though? Because doing the podcast with the Black Super Friends ended up being therapy for all of us. We have had some major breakthroughs on the show. We've had some major moments on the show, and we actually look forward. We do a show, but we look forward to getting together, having a conversation. As compared to before, we would, talk here and there. But all of us shared a different thing on the show that we had no idea that the other one was going through. I had an episode when we first started filming where I had a moment with my partner Chris, and I was like, "Hey, I just went through a depression, and no one recognized it, and I was angry with everyone. Like, I just went through depression, and no one was there. And then they were like, "Well, we thought you were good." And I'm like, "I can't tell you I'm good," but I was like, "I just went through a divorce, and like." I was looking for, I guess, somebody to recognize that or whatnot. But having those moments on the show, between all of us where we had different confessions, I was like, this show actually did a lot for me, being able to be closer to my dudes.
Good. I think it's twofold. Twofold. One, in where, again, that education piece to where we don't acknowledge things for what it is, for as their depression and or anxiety and or PTSD. You know what I'm saying? So if we don't know, again, we're not going to say, "Hey, Horace, I think you're depressed," because I don't even know the sign. I don't know the signs of it myself. So how am I going to tell you you're depressed? You know what I'm saying? And as far as, sometimes we don't know what other people are dealing with as well. And that's why I say, looking into a company that is designed for a community of people who needs to be educated first before you can even say, "Hey, you need help." Because you telling you or me or any one of our people you need help, that's a defensive thing. What the hell you mean I need help? You know what I'm saying? Like, who are you to tell me I need help? So it's like that's a part of what I try to do is first and foremost to educate us on what it is. So now if you're educated, and now you, Horace, you see a partner who's going through something, right? And it's the same signs and symptoms that you've been going through. Now you can identify that and say, "You know what? You're going through depression. Here's a number. You may need to call Ezsa." You know what I'm saying? But it's like that identification first and that education prospect of just saying, I'm learning. We're learning. So we've been brought into a world that we're set back before we even born. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like you have to just kind of catch up to everything else as being born. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're born, if there's financial issues, now you're in poverty and the lack of a dad in a household or a lack of a mom in a house or two parents in a household, but they're always bickering at each other. It's just, again, something that we just need to educate ourselves, especially as parents, on how to be as a parent for our children, but there's so many factors that contributes to that piece of what you're saying when you're going through something and nobody kind of reached out and say, "Hey, Horace, you may be going through depression," or, whatever it may be. I can't tell you that if I don't even know what that is.
Yeah. And you know what I do now? I think because as men, somebody, "You good?" I'm like, "Yeah," but they don't dig. Like now I'll have that conversation with my close friends and be like, even if you say good, I'm going to dig a little deeper. Like, bro, like, really feeling? How you really feeling? You know what I mean?
Because especially men, you guys give 2-word answers and that's it. You know what I'm saying? And keep it moving. But like everybody's just supposed to know, it's like code. You know what I'm saying? It's like, "You good?" "Yeah, I'm good," whatever. I'm moving on. And then he's not going to step and say, "Nah, I'm not good." Who really in our community say, "Nah, I'm not good, bro. Like, I need help."
Yeah. And listen, and I don't even know if that's fair to someone, but I had, with my mate, I was looking for them. I was like, I'm good, because you never want to seem weak. You know what I mean? But in reality, I'm like, how are you not missing? I'm not the same person. Like, I'm different. And
Correct.
yeah, so with my friends, one of our social media friends put on a post that said, check on your strong friends. And everybody was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I actually called them and dug a little deep. And then to find out they had a whole world of stuff going on, I'm like, so why didn't you just pick up the phone? Like,
And it's just tough too, because like we also have that mentality that, we're taught not to tell our business. We're taught not to talk to other people about anything that's going on. But then we have this mentality too, which sometimes is true, that people are not really here for you. They just want to know your business
right,
to go back and spread it across town, So now you have
right.
this trust issue as to who can I trust with this information, So again, it's just
Mhm.
so many factors that we have to fix within ourselves as a community first before we can proceed, you know, moving
Yeah.
forward.
And I'm a private person. I'm amazed when I hear people because they have an image or they perceive that you're this type of person. But my circle is really small. So, you
Look,
know, they don't know that I get to have a conversation with Issa. When I have something on my mind, hey, Issa, business or whatever, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking, and have that ability for you to walk through it, and be
that,
comfortable, feel safe doing it.
thank you. Thank you. I really do feel honored right now. But I wanted to touch on what you said about, that perception that people have. And it's just like, I get that so strong. Like people can look at me and like I am doing this social media thing is so new to me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
totally out of my comfort zone doing this. Cause you know me, I'm always behind the scene type girl. I'm not, I don't crave attention. So doing this it was a learning factor for me. But for some, that perception that people have of you automatically without even getting to know you is like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, like people can look at me and be like, they're going to tell me about my life before they even ask me. Like,
Absolutely.
what the hell we get all this from? From what? From Instagram?
Yeah.
It's just amazing how people just, their mindset and how they work. It's one thing to, okay, they're dishing out this on their social media, but that's not the person as a whole,
Yeah.
and just to get that little bit of information and create this whole figure of, one time I posted cereal on Valentine's Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Everybody's hitting me up like, what did this guy say? He was like, what? He was like shocked that I even ate cereal. Like, what the, like, what are you talking about? I would
They
post
don't
like
know you.
noodles on my, like, look here. Look, I would get my little oodles and noodles, put my little potatoes and my eggs and make me a whole meal when I tell you, right? And
Right.
then when I post it, it's like almost as people are shocked but you don't know my background. You don't know where I came from. You don't know me from jump. So why would you even perceive me to be a certain way because of it's just crazy. It's mind boggling.
I want to
But
ask you something before I get to
mhm.
social age counseling. Do you think, I think that social media actually hurt us? Do you think that it's robbing people of the opportunity to grow? Like, it's like
100%.
people are putting in more work on image than being real. It's like this image, but you're emotionally bankrupt. You're bankrupt as far as who you are, but this image is almost, and a lot of people burn themselves out trying to keep this thing going. Somebody in the comments said, "What made you come on social media?" Saying you were struggling with social media, but I guess this is a new avenue. I mean, you're good at what you do, so I do applaud you for coming on social media.
So I've always had this desire to have my own business, right? So I started with the
Mm-hmm.
nonprofit and I started with this, but there was something in me that wouldn't let go to say,
Mm.
really, true story. And I would
Uh-huh.
be up at night, like thinking about what I have to do. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
certain way that you have to do it in order for it to work. And then I've
Mm-hmm.
ignored it for so long, but I kept on again. It kept on again, just itching at me and it just
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't get out of my thoughts. So I finally prayed about it, and I told myself, you know what? And another thing too, um, again, like people don't know what you go through, but they're
Right.
quick to, judge. So I am, and I don't think I've ever openly said this too. This is the time in my life that I am dealing with something that has affected me mentally, so much that I had to like tell myself, you have to get out of this comfort zone that you're in. And it's dealing with a sick mom. And I take care of my sick mom. She has
Right.
Alzheimer's now. And my mom is my rock. You understand? Like, she talk about strength. This lady has done, I mean, that's a whole story that can get into a book. But to watch, if anyone who is a caretaker out there, they understand the struggles with that, right? And I say that to say I needed to do something that was outside of myself and to challenge myself, because that's who I am naturally. I like to be challenged, and I don't like
Mhm.
no. If you tell me no, I'm going to find a way to get it done. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
that gave me a little push to say, you know what, Issa, get up and do something. And that intrinsic thing that was eating at me, I prayed about it, and then I just started to do it. It was very uncomfortable in the beginning, but it was something that had to have been done in order for me to get that message across, so to speak. And I'm
Wow.
glad I did it, because the things that I value most are the DMs that I get behind the scenes that says, you know what, Issa, little bit of your me, you know, today I had a rough day. I did X, Y, and Z. I've been dealing with an abusive husband, blah, 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 blah. It helps me to work with my kids differently. I've been the abuser, not knowing that I was doing that because of
Mhm.
my past, right?
Mhm.
So it's like all these compliments that we're not compliments, these DMs that I'm getting that people are actually listening and it's working. It's like that aha moment to say, this is why you needed to do what you did or what you did.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
have to
Somebody.
educate people first.
I don't even know. Listen, the question was they had someone said a question. What is the purpose of image, and what does image do? Is that something we create for? Is there any reason that we create the images or the people right now? Well, that's a big thing. Image is so
Well,
important right now.
image is human nature. Images
Mm.
are is I can equate to our egos.
Mhm.
What you see, what I want to show off as who Issa is, everybody has their own view on what they want that to look like. And then to answer your question back before, social media plays a huge part in giving everyone that free platform for you to now create whatever it is you want to create. You
Mhm.
understand? So I can be I can be whatever I want to be in front of this camera. But once I hit off, that world behind me is so different. But you'll
Yeah.
never know because
Right.
it's again that social media is giving you that platform to create. And it doesn't have to be truthful anymore. It doesn't even have to be something that you really want to do. It's just something either you're doing for the likes, you're doing for the attention,
Mhm.
and that's why you have to fix you and always grow as an individual to make sure you good, you dope in real life. You know what I'm saying? Before you got to be dope on social media. Another thing that I'm huge on is just being yourself, whoever that is. And if nobody likes you for being yourself, and Bernie Mac's voice, fuck them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Uh,
you cannot please everybody, and you're going to run yourself ragged if you continue to try to please people based on what they want you to be.
okay.
Understand? So
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, your image, like I say, people create these things, especially with you. They don't know you cool as hell, down
right.
to earth. Um, Derek Burns says image should be the content of your character. Okay. Issa, before we
Yes, sir.
go and get out, because we can go. I want to say something before we get to this point. When I first identified that I had some issues, I had someone that I hated. I don't want to tell the family member. And subconsciously, I grew up and adapted some of those things unknowingly. Like I had an issue with certain things with my grandfather, and I had a hatred, and I ended up having some of those characteristics unknowingly, and I didn't know that was possible. But some of the things I hated, I adopted.
You ever heard the term when they say you act just like that person, that's why y'all can't get along?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because
And
my
it's like
family
whatever
wasn't big on love.
and it's like whatever you don't like in someone, if something bothers you so much about something, you need to look inside yourself as to why that's bothering you.
Yeah,
Because sometimes there's some ties in what you don't like about a person that you haven't truly figured about your own self.
yeah. Question: when is it good to push individuality, and when it when is it not good to push individuality? You understand that question?
I don't, but I'm going to answer it based on what I received from that.
Okay.
I think it's always good to push genuine individuality.
Mhm.
Always be yourself at any given time of the day. Now, with respect to if you're on the job and you have to like be a certain way you can't be like as laid back at home on
Yeah.
the job or as you're at home with that respect, but always be yourself as far as integrity and respect. You know what I'm saying? Always be you, no matter the time of the day, where you're at. Always push genuine individuality. If I answered that question properly,
But I tell you what, Issa, I can easily see you doing this once a week where you come on and just answer these questions that come in.
I'm with
Because,
it.
like I say, we have so much stigma, where, certain things we adopted. You don't do this, you don't do that. And I think it's crippled us. Hell, many people don't even know about emotional intelligence and just words that we don't explore.
The thing is, they don't teach us that in school. They teach us
Mhm.
about everything else, and when they like let you out after you graduate, and it's like what the hell did you learn from school? Because then you don't learn the financial literacy, you don't learn the emotional intelligence, you don't learn mental health, and it's like, shit, now I want to create a school. You know what I'm saying? So it's sad it's sad, but
I didn't learn about a lot of stuff until I was actually married, like 5 love languages and all that. Like to a man, we get up, go to work, feed. Like we are almost brute. Like this is what
yeah.
my dad did, that his dad did. We just trying to keep the lights on and a roof over your head. We don't have time to go in there exploring our feelings and why I don't like to, have family dinners, or why I'm cheap or whatever. Like we just function, for a long
And not
period of time.
understanding why we function the way we function.
Mhm.
And not even knowing sometimes that the way we're functioning in our minds, we think it's normal because we are doing it. And we're always thinking, well, it's just me. That's who I am. I'm just going to be me. And you get comfortable with being you, even if it's in a negative sense, not knowing that you are pushing somebody away, not knowing that you create a negative energy about you, not knowing that you just not being productive to yourself, you know.
And that's a new thing. When were we talking about energy coming up, the vibes and energy and, meditation, chakras, like all of that's like, you don't get out of here with that foolishness. Now people are open to be like, wow, I need to go and meditate, or, I need to do yoga or something that's going to balance me, or, the empowerment groups of women who get together and just talk, or therapy, taking advantage of that free therapy that never got used. So can you see the questions on the screen? The reason why I'm asking the question about the individuality, it seems individually creative people who are selfish don't know or understand the concept of the collective, because I hear people talk about individuality every day, but they don't care about what they do to each other, being an individual, and the consequences it can have against the whole. Okay. That's all right.
So so I would say that be mindful as to what sense you're trying to push individuality. So if you're doing it business wise, um, I do believe that in a business and in entrepreneurship, to kind of get to where you need it, entrepreneurship is very hard. And a lot of people don't talk about the hardships of it. Everybody want to talk about the money part, right? Or the
Mhm.
success They don't talk about the underlying things that you had to do to get there. So I do believe in a sense of being selfish towards your goals is most definite in terms of being in that individuality, so to speak. So what I'm saying is there's times when you need to turn it on and times when you need to turn it off. Now, and you were speaking of family and relationships in a marriage. I don't think that should be that individuality in that sense, so to speak, not in a family setting or in a marriage, but in business, yes. And,
Okay.
it all depends on the subject matter and what you're trying to accomplish. Because you can't
Okay.
accomplish anything just by thinking of yourself all the time, because then it's going to be, you're not going to, but again, it's the subject matter that you're dealing with,
Okay.
so when it comes to work, your goals for working, yeah, you can't go out with your friends every weekend, you can't spend X, Y, and Z, you got to be selfish to your goal, yes, but that's
Okay.
a time when I would say turn it on, and then
Okay.
just different times turn it off when you need that collective family views or the collectiveness of your married, whatever it may be.
I'll tell you what. Before we go to social age counseling, when I left government, I said I wanted to do something impactful. So I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to go to kindergarten. I mean, elementary. I was going to be starting elementary, deal with those kids because on TV it just looks like little innocent kids. I think I lasted 2 days, and that one day was long as hell. And I didn't realize the amount of kids that are a lot of those kids that have so much emotional trauma and different handicaps that so I always salute the teachers. Middle school was challenging. High school was what worked for me. So I did it for like 2 years. I loved it. Shout out to Suncoast High School. But the elementary level, talking to different kids, and now that's what my heart went out. Like I won't
Yeah,
do it, but
yeah.
I'll find some
You
therapy for
respect,
some
yeah.
kids. The kids are like one of my friends. Well, he was a person that we couldn't stand each other. But last year that year he got murdered, right? And the kids saw it from a distance. And it messed with me because when I was teaching, I'm looking at the kid. And you ever seen a kid that looks like the parent? Like I'm looking into the eyes of this child, like God, like something about this kid, like it's drawing on me. And I
Know
did
that.
roll call and found out who the dad was, and it just tore me up, because the kid was so emotionally needy, and they couldn't figure out why she was different. Like she had breakdowns, and then she had a little violence, streak to her. And I was like, man, think about all the kids that are, victims of, their parents being killed or they're seeing something at an early age. So I always support the work that you do, because most people won't go into the schools you go into.
Well, I was just about to say that. Like the schools that I do go into is the schools that I came from. So
Mhm.
I understand it. You know what I'm saying? And I was that kid once back 40 years ago or 30 years ago. But, I totally understand where they're coming from. And like you're saying, like that child had to deal with a history of, watching them be murdered, you said?
Yeah,
Okay. But
yeah,
here's the thing though, that's that one kid, right? So like in a school, you have a school setting where majority of the children have to deal with this on a daily basis. They have to deal with the environmental factors of you hearing gunshots out the door every 2 seconds or every night. That's
mhm,
not normal. That's not normal for a kid, but these children are growing. Look, like I remember growing up on J Avenue and when the drive-by happened and you just had to stop. Like this shit is not normal. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's the community in which I do want to go into because we have to deal with the basics issues of these children, the basic foundation. Sometimes they don't even get 3-course meals a day.
right,
Sometimes going to school is their only time that they are getting fed.
right,
They're dealing at home with, one parent household. They're
mhm,
dealing at home with the one parent that they do have either strung out on drugs or they're just never home. So now the child they have to raise themselves or
mhm,
figure out life for themselves, right? Or
mhm.
they don't have anybody looking out for them. So, look, we're given the gift that if we don't get look, we're going to figure out a way. Even as children, we think that way, right? So we go out in the streets and if we don't get the love, we're going to find the love. So we join gangs. We get into relationships that we got no business. These are my girls. They get into relationships they got no business getting into at 12 and 13-year-old, right? And there's some nasty men out there that's just taking advantage of the situation, right? And it's like there's a whole ordeal out there that these children have to deal with. And how you going to expect a child to come to school and behave a certain way when their basic needs aren't being met at home?
Right.
You know?
Right. Self-preservation is a big thing. I always tell people that when I grew up, I knew some guys that I can understand. They didn't have no choice. You know, we'd be going to school and the mom's walking by drugged out, dad's in jail, and his kids at home. And the dude had to grow up faster than he wanted to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I understood that. You know, I always tell this generation, y'all got better opportunities, but during the crack era, when they hit our community, man, it was rough. I know some guys that went to jail for just trying to survive and feed their brothers and sisters.
And you know, it's funny because I always talk about the generation difference. And like, I feel like back when we were growing up, it was a different type of struggle.
We had community. Though.
Yeah. And like the kids nowadays, they just different. Yeah. You know, and I don't shout out to my parents, right? But on the same token, you do have some parents that are just left. And it's just sad. But that's why they're so we can all get right, get help, get healing. And the whole point is to trickle down into our children, you know, so they can be better and they can have a better success and opportunity in life.
Right. Derek Burns said kids need fathers in the home. Absolutely. Listen, this is what happens with me and you, East. We will start talking, that things start flowing and rolling. Let's talk about social age counseling before we close out, because what you're doing, it addresses everything that we're talking about. Adults need therapy, kids need therapy, families collectively need therapy. This is a 2-1. Last week, a girl posted a meme that was trying to kind of troll our shows. Like, oh, this man. It was a video of a man saying, as the father, the head of the house, his wife never had to pay a bill in 18 years of marriage, and his kids never wanted for anything in the world. And he was bragging. He said, if a man can't do that, he ain't a real man. Okay. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago. Guess who's on Ayana, whatever her name is, Ayana Van Fix My Life? That family's on there. The wife is asking for divorce. The kids can't stand him. And the father's looking like, what do you mean? Like, I'm doing what my dad did. Like, I give you everything. The kids wanted his attention, love, and presence. The wife felt like he was abusive on how he dictated the house. And he's like, I just doing what I was taught. Like, y'all don't want for nothing. I'm paying, I got the rent. Clueless. But he was doing what his dad told him to do. So collectively, families need counseling at times. Right. We got to get you on. We got to get you syndicated. So tell us about social age counseling.
So social age counseling is a therapy and counseling agency that I created specifically and designed specifically for the minorities communities, or the communities of color, so to speak. Mainly for the things that, like you said, we just talked about. Children and families have, in the minority communities or communities of color, we have to deal with so much more than just, you know, the typical, you know, we have to deal with things that kind of triggers depression. And we deal with things that triggers anxiety. And yes.
We have PTSD.
From jump. Right. And we don't even know what it is. Right. And then 2, we don't know how to deal with it. You know, so it's like the agency is totally created, again, designed for understanding the community in which we're serving. So if you come on there and you need a Black male therapist, you will get a black male therapist. If you come on there, if you need a Spanish female therapist, that's what you'll get. And it's because that sometimes when people are collectively working with people that they feel relatable to, they can open up more. They develop that rapport and they develop that trust so that the process of healing or that partnership and the therapeutic process can begin. And then everyone's being open and transparent and actually wanting to do the work to get into the gold or the treatment or whatever it is that they're there for.
Is there anything that we can do to make sure that we get more people to come to social age counseling, or just be open to like, hey, this is something that is going to make you better? It's almost like going to the doctor.
So just that information, sharing that information that, sometimes we go through life. We don't have to have depression. We don't have to be a schizophrenia. We don't have to have bipolar. We don't have to have, all the disorders to go to see a counselor. You can go through regular life issues, right? And it affects you in a way that if you don't know how to cope with grief, a parent dying, a child dying,
right?
If you don't know how to cope with a divorce, if you don't know how to cope with just regular life in general, if you don't cope with it, you're going to fall short in the mental aspect. And it's very easy for you to become depressed, develop anxiety. And those two things alone, it can disrupt your life, and then sometimes you be suicidal. And then when you deal with so much stress over time without de-stressing or dealing with it, you're messing up the brain waves in your brain and you're releasing too much cortisol in your body. And it's going to be to where you're just not going to be able to function properly. And then you're going to be like, what's wrong with me? And then sometimes you get into a depression. You don't even know you're in a depression or you're depressed. I mean, you're so far gone that it's like you're far gone. And it's just going to be that much harder to get back on track when someone, like you said, when someone could have intervened earlier in the stage to say, you know what, you need to seek help or just go talk to somebody. At the very least, talk to someone.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I say it's important to have those healthy, you should have that one friend that cares. Like keep a healthy tribe around you. But like I said, you can be in depression for so long, and then you look back and you've lost it all because and then
sometimes different people react differently. So now you're always aggressive, or you're always angry, or you're always irritable, or you withdraw from yourself. So now you're not building that relationship and bonds with families or individuals that you're close to. So now you're going to lose out on that. And it's just a whole snowball effect,
Yeah, especially. And then I always tell people like me, I'm the person that usually goes and asks everybody, are they good? And being the strong person, people get used to just saying like, oh, yeah, you're good. Oh, he's strong. Those are the people that do require a one-time like, hey, are you really, really good type scenario. Last question before we leave out of here. Can a woman be a good therapist for men because of possibly the lack of masculinity women possess understanding a man's thoughts?
I believe so. I believe wholeheartedly yes. But it depends on how good of a therapist the woman is. If you're a good therapist, you can deal with anybody. And it's up to that person to feel comfortable with the female therapist, right? Because what you're coming to the therapist is your issues. And that therapist is not supposed to give you advice to tell you what to do. I'm not here to I'm here to help you figure out how you need to get over that hump that you can't get over that blockage that's blocking you. I'm here to help you do that with skills and techniques to help you on what I'm trained with. I'm sharing that with you because it works. And I understand the human mind, right? It has nothing to do with, and I want us to be very careful with that because some women, and this goes to any therapist, you have to find that right fit because some therapists going to have their own perception on things. They're going to have their own views, so to speak. So they should come as a wholehearted blank slate to hear your issues and help you with that issue. So the answer to that question is yes. But you have to feel comfortable with sharing your information to your therapist.
I want to ask you something, and this is probably a disclaimer. I knew someone that went through therapy. How important is it for, because I always believe, even with my friends, like, even though I'm dead wrong, I'm going to give them the 100% truth, because I feel if I don't come 100% truthful, there's no way you can give me the resolution or the answers or the things that I need. But a lot of times the person that's, pity patting going into therapy, they're not really unpacking. They're really not giving out. They're really not sharing 100% of the truth. So how effective can a therapist be at helping someone who's created, a fake scenario? Or is it up to the therapist to dig and try to get in there and find out what is the truth? Because some people, they slow drag even presenting their issues.
So it's always based again on the individual therapist. But so it's hard. I'm not going to say it's hard to find good therapists. I believe that, most therapists are great, but that comes with the approach a therapist takes. So for me, for example, if I know you bullshit me off rip, I'm gonna let you bullshit me until a certain time that I'm gonna give you enough rope, but it's on my terms. So I'm gonna give you enough rope to see if that's just your pattern, if that's just something you're not ready to deal with yet, or if that's just something that you may not have gotten to that point with me to where you don't feel comfortable enough. Maybe it's the first or second session that you don't feel comfortable enough opening up to. So it depends on the situation. Now, if you just bullshitting all around, one thing that I can pat myself on the back is that if you bullshit me, I'm gonna be very straight up with you. You're not gonna. Look. I'm gonna go home and eat something. I'm gonna go by my day. You got to go back home with you. So either you want to help or you don't. And I'm being very harsh right now, but that's when you get me to a point to where I cannot sugarcoat with you. I'm going to deal with you according to your personality. If you're soft type, I'm going to deal with soft. If I know how to match energies, right? And that's one of the techniques that I can say that I do possess. But if you don't want the help, and if you're going to bullshit me in our 8th, 9th session, come on.
Okay. Well,
that might goes on to that therapist, though.
That might have. We're trying to close out, but that might have answered Chris' question. I don't know. What makes a good therapist?
Someone who can identify the issue right off the bat and understanding the person's background and where they're coming from, because we're all not created equally. We all have our own traumas. We all have our own core beliefs. We have our own parental style. Culture plays huge role into the person's individuality. So identifying all that and gathering all your resources before you can try to treat them with a treatment plan. Because it's never a one-stop shop for everybody.
Dear Burns, the therapist should be able to search the truth. The courtroom judge was able to search the truth today out of it. Oh God, I got you, dear. That is poignant. Listen, you got a fan base here, and you're one of my favorite people. How do they get in contact with you, or when are we following up? One last question: how many sessions does it take normally?
4.
I guess when someone's coming in to be treated for something, or they want to explore something that's affecting them.
So
could it be continuous?
Initially, I tell clients that to get a good grasp on things, enough for them to do their homework and do their due diligence, my due diligence on treatment, I give initially 6 months. Now, if the question is how many sessions do you need before you build that up rapport, that's based on the therapist. And usually I can get, not that I'm saying I can, but usually I'm very straight up. I'm very
surgical?
No, well, the thing is, I don't make people feel a certain way for whatever it is you bring into. I've heard it all,
Yeah.
right? And I've done some things that people would never know. But so it's like I understand. I have that compassion, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I do make you feel
Safe.
welcome, open, and safe enough to open up to what your issues are very quickly.
No
Yeah.
judgment zone.
At all. At
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Listen, before I knew it, this has been my zone. I can come in, Ezsa, this what's going on, yada yada yada,
That's right.
and be like, yep. So we've had amazing discussions. That's why I always I cheer for you. How can they find you? Social media, websites, your next appearance, next show.
So
People
you
want to
can
speak with you.
So social age counseling, you can email me at socialagecounseling@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
The telephone number for social age counseling is 561-563-4061. And then you can always find me personally on officially Ezsa on Instagram and Facebook.
All right. Ezsa, we may have to do this again, East, because this thing flows, and I think I can get you to I get the laid back, Ezsa. You know what I mean? So, Chris Leo said, well, I asked because I hear a lot of people using the word healed. So how many sessions until you're healed? I guess it would vary, but that's for you to answer.
So it depends on how much work that person is willing to do. Again, I'm not here to do the work for you. So if how much you are invested into your treatment is the quicker it'll be.
Okay.
And that is zoning into your treatment. And if it's to block out any negativity out of your life, and that's exactly what you do, you block out the negative people, you block out the negative thoughts, you block out whatever it is that is from your treatment plan, and you're continuously doing that day and night, your treatment and your healing will be definitely quicker than someone who's just kind of playing around.
Yeah. I think having the courage to really explore and unpack that stuff is major. You know,
Correct.
I've been there where person's BSing. Well, you have a fan out there said, tell her she's cute and I like her character.
Well, thank you, Mr.
See her in
Derek.
person. See her in person, Derek. She's phenomenal. So thank you for joining the episode of the G Series where I speak with the godly, the gifted, the great. What else can I use for G? The gorgeous.
Thank you.
See.
Thank you.
So join us for another episode, and hopefully we can continue the discussion because I really keep saying I want you to have as many platforms to share your gift as possible. So stay tuned. We're going backstage, Ezsa.
That's right.
Thank you for joining in the G Series with Horace Towns. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.